All right, I'm glad to be here with the superintendent of Middletown City Schools in Ohio, Marlon Stiles. Welcome, Marlon.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here today with you, Kim.
Absolutely. I would love for you to start by telling folks about Middletown City Schools.
Oh, first of all, thanks for allowing us to join you today. Very honored to be here. Middletown City School District is located in Southwest Ohio, dead smack in the middle of Dayton and Cincinnati, Middletown. We are a proud urban district serving about 6,400 students. We got a staff right now that truly loves them to death, and we are excited to educate every single last one of them. We're 100% free reduced lunch rate district, very urban, high poverty environment, but we are also experiencing students who are thriving educationally. We are a district that truly enjoys integrating technology and a culture of collaboration that focuses on inclusive learning experiences for all students. So we're excited about what we're doing for kids. We're excited to be part of League of Innovative Schools. More importantly, excited to serve students across the country.
Great. Thank you for that introduction. So we're here to talk about how your district looks at allocating resources to ensure equity. What did you and your team discover about equitable resource allocation when COVID-19 hit in this spring?
We discovered two things, Kim, and it was really interesting when we had to look ourselves in the mirror. We discovered that we have done a good job inside the walls of our school providing students access to equitable resources, right? So they had access to technology through and through, right? Meaningful technology inside the classroom. But we also discovered that we had been ignoring the fact that when students left the walls of our school buildings, that those educational experiences, they stopped. Shame on us for knowing that that was existing and not doing anything about it. Unfortunately, it took COVID to really push that to the very top of the list. But we know when our students left that we had a very large portion of them that were part of the statistics of what we call the homework gap that we're talking about across the country. We knew that we met all of those gates to identify students who didn't have access to devices when they left the walls of our school building. They had them inside the classroom, but not at home. We knew that we had a large percentage of our students, almost 35%, that when they went home, they didn't have access to quality broadband inside the walls of their homes. So all those meaningful, quality, inclusive learning experiences that they had in the classroom, it brought light to the fact that we did a good job inside the walls, but we had a very big problem outside. We needed to really start to give it some time and attention and prioritize solutions to close that homework gap our kids were facing.
Mm-hmm. Wow, 35%. That's definitely a gap. If you think about the biggest equity challenge that you faced with COVID-19, clearly the technology and access piece is a challenge. But maybe you can kind of frame up for us the equity challenges, I should say plural, that you face.
I'll give you two to really to hone in on. Number one, food. Food was a huge resource deficit that our community was facing during COVID-19. Back in the spring, we put together a very large food distribution plan where we had 30 distribution sites throughout the entire city, where students were able to come and get meal bags that consisted of breakfast and lunch on a daily basis. For the 9-week period that we were shut down, our district distributed 185,000 meals during that time, which tells you how much of a need there was that existed in our community.
Yeah.
We had community volunteers that we rallied. We were able to get our hands on food supplies, which really helped us out. But the volunteers in the community helped us man the distribution sites so we could provide the service to our community. Transitioning to right now, we're 3 weeks into the start of the school year. We know the needs still remain, even though our data has shown an increase in COVID being present in our community. We have shifted and revised some of that plan, but even now, on a greater scale, we're distributing meal boxes now in August and September. Those meal boxes consist of breakfast and lunch for 5 days. We're pushing those out to our communities. Last week was our first week kicking off. The meal distribution, we pushed out 28,000 meals in 1 day of distribution. I don't have the stats for this week, but that need is definitely present. Second of all, the other focus area that we had really really focused on internet service for our students. Again, high poverty environment, our median household income is $39,000. So we work with 3 local providers to figure out the addresses of students who lived in a home that did not have internet access. We got tired of saying X% of our students don't have internet. We needed to get to a point where we knew which houses did not have it, and so we could do something about it. So we work with 3 local providers to get the data and the addresses. It took us 4 months, unfortunately, but in a good way. And we were able to drill down to a partnership with T-Mobile. We were able to purchase hotspots with unlimited data plans to provide students who lived in homes that didn't have internet access, for the next 2 years. We made a 2-year commitment at the district level to pay for the monthly fee for the internet for any household that didn't have it currently. That's an exciting piece. Although we celebrate students having internet access, we've got much more work to do. And I know districts across the country are trying to tackle this. One thing we still need to battle in this, Kim, and I think you'll understand this, is the quality of the internet service that we're providing. It is an unlimited data plan. It is a hotspot, but as you know, as you drill down into the language, there's only a certain amount of data that is the 5G, and then it drops down to 3G. You know, there's a big difference in the quality of that service that you get between 5 versus 3. So we're trying to do our part to find a way to leverage some funding to be able to make sure students have unlimited data on the 5G lens on a monthly basis. Because as you know, the educational activities we have students doing right now in a remote setting, in a virtual setting, requires a lot of quality data as it relates to a data plan. So excited about what we're doing. All students have devices. We pushed out over 6,000. All students are connected to the internet. We have full confidence that we're at 100% now. But really we're focusing in on how can we sustain it, but also improve the quality of the internet access that the students are getting.
Wow, that's a powerful solution to really do that mapping down to the household level. So I appreciate that. So we're talking about resource allocation, right? I mean, you're a district, you get a per pupil allocation, you get funding, that's a pretty standard formula. How has your budget changed as you're having to accommodate, you know, these extra, you know, pieces of equipment and access to support students at home?
We made a commitment 3 years ago in our strategic plan that our core value was around equity for all. Part of our strategic objectives included a 1-to-1 ratio for students grades 3-12, a shared device ratio for students 1-2. So that pre-COVID, that commitment for equity was already present. So the device piece, we had already made it a part of our fiscal priorities to take care of that. A big concern, as you heard me say, was how do we raise the funding? How do we find the funds for the internet access? So unfortunately, back in May and June, our governor cut our budget $300,000 as the fiscal year came to a close. The new fiscal year just opened up. He cut our budget another $300,000. That's a big hit to us in a high poverty urban environment that was already resource deprived, unfortunately. So we made a commitment and had to reshift some priorities to find a way to come up with $608,000 to be able to provide students internet access for 2 years. So those are tough decisions, right? So you have to figure out where to take that money from. Unfortunately, we had to come up with some ideas about sustainability because our budget can't handle that $600,000 commitment for a long period of time. The best idea that we have right now, again, I want to emphasize the best idea in a high poverty urban environment is to reach out to our community to see if we can have a sponsor a student campaign. As exciting as that sounds and as creative as that may or may not sound, it's the best idea that we have. So really our effort right now is to advocate with equity champions across the country like yourself, Susan Enfield, Matt Miller, Baron Davis, Melvin Brown, to really tag team and partner with equity champions to really put pressure on the FCC to do something about the E-rate language so that we can leverage funds to do a better job of providing kids high quality internet access. So as a district, we can't handle it and sustain it for a period of time. We're up for the challenge. We will do what we have to do to try to pull this off for the long term. But we can sleep well at night right now knowing that every student has a device, a school issued device. Every student is connected to the internet right now and will be for the next 2 years when they go home.
Mhm. That's, and I appreciate you mentioning the other league districts and the focus that you all are trying to push forward on in terms of technology and access at the federal level. Uh, I'm curious also about, local partnerships and the role that they play, either local corporate partners, local nonprofit partners. And you mentioned T-Mobile as a partner with the internet access piece you've launched. Are there other partners that have emerged in this kind of coming into school year 2021?
Yeah, that's this great opportunity to brag about our community. So we have reached out to a series of community partners to look at this from an equity standpoint. We know that students in a high poverty urban environment who are starting the school year off in a virtual and remote setting, they need support. So we have rallied a series of community partners to create what we are calling our own definition, remote learning hubs. Um, this concept is not new. I know it's been used across the country, but these aren't parents who are putting the hubs together. These are community organizations such as our YMCA, our Community Building Institute, our faith-based community starting to surface. What we are doing is we're rallying community volunteers to go to locations to open the doors up and invite students and families in during remote and virtual learning to provide them supports. If you need to go to work, we can take care of your child in these remote learning hubs and make sure they're engaged in all the educational activities that they're supposed to be present for. Also, we're working to provide the hubs with internet access. Next week, our Curriculum and Innovation Director, Fran Morrison, she is providing training to the volunteers to try to upskill their abilities and upskill their talent to interact with some of the technology platforms that our students are engaging with academically. We're working with our food service department on a schedule to provide snacks and lunch in these settings so students have access to meals. But all the credit goes to our community agencies who are surfacing to create these locations spread out in the community where students and families can come to get support during, unfortunately, a remote setting due to COVID-19 spread throughout our city.
Wow, that's great to hear the rallying that's happening in your community around your district. I just love to hear about those partnerships. How about on the corporate side, Marlon? You mentioned a bit of this shortfall that you're having to navigate financially, and you mentioned this sponsor student piece, which I actually, if you can maybe talk a little bit more about that, that'd be an interesting kind of story to hear. But I'm also wondering, are corporate partners also part of the equation?
Yeah, so two things on that. So a little bit about the sponsor student piece. We're trying to keep it very simple. So for $165, you can sponsor the internet service for a student in their home for an entire year, a calendar year, 12 months, $165. I know that may or may not seem like a lot to some, but in a high poverty environment where 25% of our families are living in intense poverty, that's a lot of money. So we are reaching out to the community to see what type of funds we can generate through the campaign of Sponsor a Student. And we will do our best to generate as much as we possibly can. We are working with some of our local businesses, and that campaign is supposed to kick off here, I think, September 14th. So we'll see what we're able to accomplish. Our ultimate goal is to allow us to sustain the effort as long as we possibly can. On the corporate side of it, we have not had much success with corporate donations. Our local community foundation is going to kick off the campaign with a $25,000 donation at our next board meeting coming up here mid-September. But outside of that, we have not found any success with corporate partners. It's tough right now, especially here in Southwest Ohio and the part of the country we live in. So the ability to contribute like we have in the past for our business sector, we understand the difficulty with that. We've had some local businesses here shut down, unfortunately. So really try not to stress our structure here in the city so that we can still function at a pretty good level across the community. So definitely something that's on our board that we'd like to explore. Just trying to be creative about how we go about doing that business given the times.
Great. Yeah, that makes sense. As we wrap up here, can you share any ideas with the audience about, you know, as folks are looking at equity and resource allocation? Any takeaways, lessons learned, ideas that you would share with folks? Clearly, you've done a lot in Middletown. Would love to hear, you know, actually, I'm going to do that again. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll do 1, 2, 3. So as we wrap up here, Marlon, I'm wondering if you can share with folks takeaways, lessons learned, ideas based on the work that you've done in Middletown on how folks can look at equity and resource allocation.
Sure. I think one thing, and I'm going to go a little bit unconventional here off of what I've already talked about. When I think of equity, I also think students need access to a high quality educator who can leverage the technology in the right ways. And I think we often lose track of that here the last several months, given the presence of COVID, because it's been about the resources, but also look as humans and educators as resources also. So whether the investment in the skill sets of educators to leverage and integrate technology has been present in your district in the past, whether it's present currently or you plan to do it in the future, a lesson that we have learned or a return on investment that we have benefited from has been our focus on the skill sets of our staff and their comfort levels with technology being present in their educational environment. So lots of different resources that are available out there. If I could give one piece of advice, it would be this, to make it a priority to upskill your staff on how to properly leverage and integrate technology into their pedagogy as educators. It's important. We often get excited about the opportunity to transform how we're educating students. We can't transform practice until we gain a serious comfort level with the presence of technology being in front of us and accessible to our students. We can provide all the resources that we want to students. We can give them laptops. We can give them internet access. We can open different environments and types of learning, virtual, remote, hybrid, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, it comes down to good old fashioned, this will probably make you smile a little bit, Kim, good old fashioned teaching and learning, right? We are instructional designers and creators of inclusive learning experiences for students, all students, and that's going to require us to be comfortable and have the ability to leverage and implement and integrate technology for all the right reasons for kids so that they can experience a great learning experience. It's my one bit of information that I would give a piece of advice.
Well, I appreciate you ending on the human side of the equation, which is where the double down on the investment should be. So I appreciate that. I'm so glad to have you here with us for 15 minutes to share what's happening in Middletown City Schools. And thank you for being such a strong and proud member of the League of Innovative Schools. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks for having us.